Hello everyone, welcome to StarPsych, and today I want to talk about the INFJ and the NiTi loop. Now remember, when we're talking about loops in personality psychology, MBTI, this is not an official term. It's more so an observable pattern that people have seen to be relatively true when looking at personality types. And today I want to talk about in particular the INFJ's loop, when they get stuck essentially in their first and third cognitive functions, what that can look like for them, and how it tends to portray itself in their interactions. Let's get into it. So working with INFJs in both coaching and typing sessions, I have seen a very clear and distinct pattern of how the NiTi loop tends to portray itself in INFJs who might be struggling. And the most common thing that I notice is some form of existentialism. INFJs tending to struggle with their place in the universe. What should they be doing? Who are they? What is right and wrong? These sorts of things. How are we here? Why are we here? The bigger questions of existence. And this is something that I think is usually more so exclusive to the INFJ as compared to the INTJ, even though they both lead with introverted intuition. And the reason for this is because the INFJ has introverted thinking as their tertiary function, as opposed to introverted feeling like the INTJ. Now, why does the INFJ tend to get stuck in existentialism if they are struggling? Well, it's because the combination of introverted intuition and introverted thinking leads to what I like to call a double deep type in terms of how they prefer to approach information. They're going to be looking at it through the lens of introverted intuition, trying to kind of dig to the metaphorical root of whatever it is that they're looking at, studying, or are interested in. But then once they get there, then they just continue to dig deeper with introverted thinking. It's like you just go from NI to TI, trying to get the ultimate in-depth analysis of this topic that you're trying to understand. And this becomes a problem when you start to look at things more so related to existence. So why does existence tend to be such a big area of struggle with the INFJ in their NiTi loop? Well, I think it's because existence is the really one thing that we can't fully explain. We can't have a firm ultimate answer towards existence as humans. Now, we can create theories such as religion or, other mythologies, these sorts of things, and they can attempt to explain why we are here and how we are here, but they don't actually do that from a perspective that is clearly observable to everyone. And I think this is one of the things that the INFJ tends to really struggle with, is that they're trying to find these kinds of definitive answers for why we're here. And the further they go into that, the further they get away from actually living life or doing things. And, as an INTJ, there's a bit of bias here, because when I tend to think about these sorts of things, I diverge away from them as soon as it gets away from the, okay, so what am I going to do with this information? But to an INFJ, they just keep going. It just goes, okay, well, I'm trying to understand it, but then how can I TI explain it? How can I understand this theory and create this really complex TI framework of understanding for it? And when you can't do that for something like existence, it becomes really stressful, and it becomes something that they tend to loop themselves over and over into thinking about. Or they do come to a conclusion, and the only conclusion that can really easily be come to for many INFJs is that existence is kind of meaningless, and that once we die, there's nothing left out there in the universe, and there is no religion, these sorts of things. They either have to fill the void with something like religion or meaning of some sort, or they end up going down the super nihilistic form of thinking about the universe. They're going to go down this route of, okay, well, either everything matters or nothing matters. And there's usually very little in between when it comes to the INFJ and their NiTi loops. So what's the cure to this? What's the answer to the NiTi loop for the INFJ? Well, the one thing that you'll notice the most when you're interacting with INFJs in this NiTi loop is this lack of normal or healthy FE interaction. It's because FE has kind of been dulled to allow TI to take the reins. And one thing that you'll see that's different between INTJs and INFJs is that if you put an INFJ into an FE environment, even if they're stuck into an NiTi loop, they're usually still pretty aware of the social atmosphere, how people are feeling, these sorts of things. So the issue is that NiTi INFJs tend to become more reclusive as they get into this double introverted mind state, and therefore they don't even allow FE a chance to interact with the outer world because they're so concerned with whatever it is that they're thinking about. And they also might be concerned with how they're portraying themselves. Oh, maybe they think I'm weird, they won't understand me, etc., etc. But once that INFJ gets back into a state where they can interact with extroverted feeling in a more natural and healthy manner, especially when it comes to interacting with like friends, family, these sorts of things, you'll start to see this regression away from just NiTi and allowing extroverted feeling the influence to come in and do what it needs to do. Just like I would say with INTJs, if you're stuck in an NiFi loop, you want to engage in just a little bit of extroverted thinking, maybe some extroverted sensing, just get out of your mind, get out of your head. I would say the same thing for INFJs. You have to engage in something in the outer world and allow these functions to bring a little bit more balance into your life. If you're stuck all the way in introversion, you're going to just be stuck in those two functions. You're not going to be able to see things clearly. Your perspective is going to be limited. You're not actually going to be able to come to realistic conclusions. For INFJs, it can be really healthy for them to engage in extroverted feeling when they are maybe stuck in this double introverted loop. And that could be something as simple as talking to a friend, even if you're not really in a super social mood. Because one of the big differences I find with INFJs is that if you can give them just enough push to get them into the social situation, the situation where FE is going to be allowed to do its thing, then they're going to kind of naturally blossom and start engaging with that situation. Unlike the INTJ where you push them into some sort of social situation and they just get frustrated and annoyed. With INFJs and even ENFJs, this is something I see with my wife as well, she'll be reluctant to engage in some sort of social activity because, oh, maybe it's scary, frightening, new, something she doesn't completely understand. But as soon as you get them into it, having a good time, having fun. So that is my recommendation for INFJs who might be stuck in this existentialism or might be stuck in some sort of NiTi loop. Just engage with extroverted feeling a little bit. Even if it's just once a day, talk to somebody. Get out of that mindset of just trying to analyze or understand these problems that might not even have realistic solutions for you to attempt to be trying to find at this moment. There is purpose in trying to find the big answers in life. I'm not saying that isn't something you shouldn't do, but once you go down that rabbit hole to the point where you're losing track of everything else in your life because of your attempt to understand these things, that's when you're having a problem, and that's when you're losing your own mental health. All right, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this discussion on INFJs and their typical struggle with existentialism and the NiTi loop. If you did, let me know down in the comment section below. If you're an INFJ, how have you dealt with these problems in the past before? Do you have any other advice that I missed that might be useful to other INFJs? Let me know down in the comments below. I would like to remind people that I have a Patreon if you'd like to support me and this channel. Even just $1 a month, if 10% of my subscribers supported me for $1 a month, I'd be able to keep this channel going for years and years without problems in terms of monetary upkeep. Other than that, I do have personality typing sessions at my website, asurapsych.com, if you're interested in working with me to find out what your personality type is and what that means for you. This has been Asura from Asura Psych. Have a good one.